Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The opinions of hosts and guests do not necessarily reflect the opinion of this network.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk only on Paranormal Experience Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama. This is Ghost Talk with 187 PI. Sit back and prepare yourselves for an adventure into the paranormal world with host Shelly Robertson and 187 PI research team. Ghost Talk is broadcasting live from Ohio's most haunted jail. Learn about their ongoing research at the jail and abroad, investigation techniques, and their personal encounters. Here is your host of Ghost Talk and 187 PI founder, Shelly Robertson.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Ghost Talk Radio with me as your host, Shelly Robertson. Tonight, I have a very interesting show planned for you. I will be taking you on a journey through some of the ghost towns in America. I would like to invite all of my listening friends out there tonight to join me and chat at either Spreaker or the WBHM-DB.com, where you can join in on the conversation or ask me any questions you might have. So before I start the show tonight, I would like to say that many of the places featured in tonight's show are places you can visit. Okay, so please, if you plan to visit, make sure you check out the hours of operations and get any permissions or tickets required before going out and poking around, okay? Now, with that being said, our first stop on our journey tonight is the Calico Ghost Town. Now, Calico is a ghost town and former mining town in San Bernardino County, California. It's located in the Calico Mountains of the Mojave Desert region of Southern California. It was founded in 1881 as a silver mining town and today has been converted into a county park named, appropriately, Calico Ghost Town. It's located off of Interstate 15 and it lies 3 miles from Barstow and 3 miles from Yermo. Okay, now there was this fella named Walter Knott who purchased Calico in the 1950s. Architecturally restoring all but the 5 remaining original buildings to look as they did in the 1880s. Calico received California Historical Landmark and in 2005 was proclaimed by the then Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger to be California's Silver Rush Ghost Town. All right. Now, Calico has been restored, like I mentioned, to the Silver Rush area. And when it flourished, although many of the buildings were removed and replaced, and they were replaced with like a gingerbread architecture with false facades that tourists would expect to see in a Western-themed town, right? And most of the restored and newly built buildings are made of wood with a simple rustic architecture and a severely weathered appearance. All right, it's just what you would expect to see if you were going to a ghost town. Some structures still stand dating back to the town's operational years, and the original ones that still stand are Lil's Saloon, the town office, the former home of Lucy Lane, which we'll talk about her in a little bit. And the former home of Lucy Lane actually is now the main museum, but it was the town's post office and courthouse. Smitty's Gallery, the general store, and Joe's Saloon. Those are all still standing. There's also a replica of the schoolhouse on the site of the original building. Now, In November of 1962, Calico Ghost Town was registered as a California historic landmark. Now today, the park operates mine tours, gunfight stunt shows, gold panning, several restaurants, the narrow gauge Calico and Odessa Railroad. There's a mystery shack, a number of trinket stores, and it's actually open every day except Christmas. And of course, it requires an entrance fee, right? Additional fees are required for some of the attractions. There's overnight camping is also available there. Special events are held throughout the year. One event that they include every year is what they call Civil War Days historical reenactment, and they do this on President's Day weekend. Then they have a spring festival in May, Calico Days in early October, and of course, they have a ghost town haunt in late October. All right, so it's very much, even though it's a ghost town, it's very much alive with a lot of goings-ons, right? Now, the Calico Cemetery it's just right outside, it holds between 96 and 130 graves, and it's had burials in the 20th and 21st centuries, believe it or not. Now, let's move on to the hauntings of Calico Ghost Town, right? There's been so many claims of paranormal activity there and lots of reported stuff. But there are three main entities who've been identified as residing in the Calico Ghost Town, and these are the ones that you should be on the lookout for if you plan to make a visit there. Which visiting a ghost town, I have visited a few ghost towns, and they are fascinating. So the ones in tonight's show are also fascinating, so I recommend you visit one. Now, the ghosts that live at Calico Ghost Town. One of the most commonly spotted entities haunting the ghost town is said to be a woman by the name of Lucy Lane. Okay, her house still stands, right? Now, history suggests that Lucy ran Calico's general store alongside her husband, who was John Robert Lane. Now, just like so many of the residents, the Lanes moved away from Calico when the town began rapidly depopulating. Well, they ended up returning in 1916 after the town was abandoned, and they lived the rest of their days in the town. Lucy was well in her 90s when she finally passed. So I guess it seems only natural that she would want to stick around the town where she lived and died, right? Many visitors to the Calico Ghost Town have frequently reported seeing Lucy walking between what was once her home and the general store. She's easily recognizable, they say, by her beautiful black lace dress, and that was actually the dress she was buried in. Although most of the reports describe seeing Lucy walking from her home to the general store, there's also been sightings of her inside both buildings as well. Her former home, just like I mentioned a few moments ago, is now a museum, and it's dedicated to Lucy and John Robert Lane, and she's sometimes seen sitting in a rocking chair, slowly rocking back and forth there. Some visitors have claimed to have seen Lucy behind the counter in the general store as well. Another paranormal hotspot in Calico Ghost Town is definitely the schoolhouse. Of course, the names of the teachers have long been lost, but it's said that their spirits are responsible for a ton of the paranormal activity happening in the old schoolhouse. There's been frequent reports that teachers like to stand in the windows of the schoolhouse and look out to the people outside. There's also been reports of a red ball of light moving around in the schoolhouse, and that has been witnessed by many people to the ghost town. The former teachers are certainly not the only ones who are up to mischief. There's also been reports, you guessed it, folks, of various ghostly students in the schoolhouse as well. The children's spirits can be seen running around inside the building. Although reports say they keep to themselves most of the time, but there is this one girl who looks to be about the age of 11 or 12 who does like to interact with children and teenagers, and she will often visit the kids. And when the kids say something to their parents about seeing her, the girl vanishes. Now, the most prominent ghost that roams around Calico Ghost Town is most likely the entity known as Tumbleweed Harris. Oh, what a great name for the old Wild West, right? He was actually the last marshal of Calico, and it seems as though he's not yet stepped down from his duty. He's often seen by the boardwalks on Main Street, and you'll be able to recognize him by his large frame and long white beard. If you do visit Calico Ghost Town, they say to be sure to stop by Tumbleweed's gravestone and thank him for continuing to keep Calico peace, even in death, right? So, of course, these here are just like three of the most common reports of paranormal activity that happens around the ghost town. There's lots of other entities around the town, including Dorsey, and it's a male carrying dog. There's been reports about an angry cowboy who haunts Hank's Hotel. There's been reports about a female spirit known as Esmeralda, and also a woman in a long white dress who is often seen wandering on the outskirts of town. Of course, every haunted location has to have that lady in white, right? I mean, she travels everywhere. Some of the other haunted hot spots include Maggie Mine, the Calico Corral, and like I mentioned, Hank's Hotel. And it's common for visitors to experience unexplained chills, having their clothing tugged, and even having their hands and faces touched. So that is your typical goings-on at the Calico Ghost Town. Next, we're going to travel on to a place called St. Elmo, and it's in Colorado. St. Elmo, Colorado was a former gold mining camp in Chaffee County, and it's nestled 1,000 feet below the timberline in the Sawatch Range, which is 20 miles southwest of Buena Vista. Now, today, it was one of the best preserved ghost towns in Colorado, and the entire district was placed on the National Register of Historic Places in 1979. Now, the area was originally settled in 1878 and was made official in 1880 when, gold and silver began to bring many people to the area. Now, when the settlement was first started, it was called Forest City. And the small town's name was changed when the post office objected because there were too many towns with that same name, believe it or not. So the new name was derived by Griffith Evans, one of the founders, who was reading a romantic 19th century novel by the same name, St. Elmo. Well, the town was laid out in 6 feet of snow, if you can believe that. And, beginning with high moral character, the settlement went the way of other booming mining towns, okay? And it reached a population of more than 2,000, and the town started taking on all of the thrills and frills of a single male population with saloons and dance halls and, you guessed it, some bordellos. Now, when the Alpine Tunnel was under construction, St. Elmo became the scene of raunchy Saturday night sprees, party time. And then in 1881, the Denver, South Park, and Pacific Railroad came through the area, and a station was built in St. Elmo. From here, the tracks continued to Romley, Hancock, and through the historic Alpine Tunnel, St. Elmo was considered the main source of supplies arriving by train for the area settlers, and eventually the town boasted smelting works, several merchandise stores, 5 hotels, a telegraph office, a town hall, 5 restaurants, 2 sawmills, a schoolhouse, a weekly newspaper called the Mountaineer, and, of course, numerous saloons and dance halls and the like. Now, the miners, they worked at several mines throughout the area that were rich in silver, gold, copper, and iron. The principal mines were Mary Murphy, the Theresa C., the Molly, and the Pioneer. The Murphy mine, it was situated up on the mountain some 2,000 feet above the railroad, okay? It was the largest and the most successful, shipping as much as 50 to 75 tons of ore a day to the smelters at Alpine. Now, the Murphy and the Theresa C., they ran more in gold than in silver, and altogether there were over 150 patented mine claims in the immediate area. So, things got crazy during the gold rush times, right? In 1881, this fella named Anton Stark, he was a cattleman, and he brought a herd to the railroad, and he was so taken with the town that he and his family took up residence. Anton became a section boss for one of the local mines, and his wife Anna ran a general store and the Home Comfort Hotel, which later became home to the post office and a telegraph office. Now, Anton and Anna, they raised 3 children who was Tony, Roy, and Annabelle, right? And those children, they worked in the hotel and the store. The hotel was said to have been the cleanest in town. The meals were the best. The supplies at the store was better than any other of the establishments, right? So, of course, the Stark family was part of St. Elmo's elite, high-class group, and they attended church regularly. Anna was said to have been a humorless woman who severely controlled her children, believing that they were better than any other townsfolks or better than the miners, the railroad men, and, of course, prostitutes and hard women. Of course they were better than them. Well, the children were rarely allowed to leave home, and they were forbidden to attend local dances or social activities. In the end, they only had each other for company, right? What an existence for some kids. Now, in 1890, a fire destroyed the business section, and the town was never entirely rebuilt. This was about the same time that St. Elmo peaked in population with about 2,000 residents. Now, afterward, many of the mines were depleted and many of the miners moved out of the area. More mines continued to fail in the ensuing years, and the closure of the Alpine Tunnel in 1910 started a major decline in St. Elmo. Now, the railroad continued to run until 1922. And it's been said that the rest of St. Elmo's population rode the last train out of town, never to return, right? So for many years, Roy and Tony Stark tried to influence developers in reopening the mines. But when they were unsuccessful, they turned to tourism. leasing some of the empty cabins to vacationers, and they continued to run the general store. Now, after Anton Stark's death, which was their father, Anna realized that the tourism trade was not providing for the family, and she sent her daughter Annabelle to work in the telegraph office in Salida, which is 20 miles south of St. Elmo, right? Now, the lonely and attractive girl was finally able to escape the prison that her mother had made for her in St. Elmo. Before long, she met a young man named Ward, and in 1922 they married, sending a telegram to her family that they were moving to Trinidad. Though no one seems to know why the marriage didn't work, but just 2 short years later, of course, she returned to St. Elmo, where she spent the rest of her life. And with that, folks, we will be back with more stories and the hauntings of St. Elmo after this short message. You are listening to Ghost Talk Radio on WBHM-DB.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk only on Paranormal Experience Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama. Since 1948, Fate Magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting. You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
This is Jason Bland, host of Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup, where we stream live as a webcast every Sunday night, 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern, with guests who will blow your mind. Live ghost box sessions where you can call into the show to see if the spirits will talk to you, and the world wide web of weird with the latest in paranormal news and evidence. We're bringing the weird every Sunday night, 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. Don't forget to follow and subscribe.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 23 minutes after the hour.
Welcome back to Ghost Talk Radio with me as your host, Shelly Robertson. And if you just tuned in, I invite you all to join me in chat at WBHM-DB.com or on the Spreaker board, where you can ask any questions you might have or join in on the conversation. If you missed the first part of the show, no worries. You can catch the full show archive on Spreaker, Google Play, iTunes, and iHeartRadio at your leisure. And as a matter of fact, we are on many different platforms. Whatever listening service you use, we're probably there. So, before the break, we're talking about the St. Elmo ghost town, right? And I'm going to continue on with that because this is a fascinating place, and just the history and the hauntings. I would like to visit this place myself. Okay, so it was 1925, and the Mary Murphy mine, which was the principal gold mine of Chalk Creek Mining District, it also closed. Okay, so from 1870 to 1925 it produced 220,000 ounces of gold, and that was worth $4.4 million at the time. That's a lot of money back then. It also produced a considerable amount of silver, lead, and zinc, right? So, these three eccentric Stark children, along with their mother, they maintained their existence by continuing to run the general store and rent the cabins to tourists, though, of course, as you can imagine, the condition of the town, it deteriorated. And by 1930, the population of St. Elmo had dwindled down to only 7. Okay? In 1934, Roy Stark, he passed away, and his mother, Anna, died a short time later. So the only residents left were Annabelle and Tony, who lived in the town without indoor plumbing or electricity. Okay? It was said they rarely took a bath or changed their clothes, and they neglected the old hotel, letting the place pile up with trash and discarded items, but they continued to run the home comfort store. Now, the store said to have been, they said it started to have a sour smell, and it contained faded tins of outdated food and stale tobacco, so they just weren't keeping up on anything. Okay, so it was in 1947 when this book, Stampede to Timberline, was published by Muriel Seibel. It stated that St. Elmo was a ghost town, right? That's what was stated in the book. And Tony and Annie, they were angry, claiming that it was not the tattered store and their eccentricities that drove away business, but rather, Muriel's statements in the book, right? So they had to try to blame it on something. Now, they say that Annabelle was always, kind and generous to the people who still frequented the store, and the locals began to call her Dirty Annie because of her filthy clothing and tangled hair, okay? She was also known to have roamed the old town with a rifle in hand to protect her property. Now, the town officially died on September 30th, 1952, when the post office closed. Eventually, Tony and Annabelle were sent away to a mental institution for their own safety and that of others. However, just a few weeks later, a sympathetic friend convinced the authorities that they were of no harm to anyone, and they were released. Tony died a short time later, and Annabelle was sent to a nursing home in 1958, where she died in 1960. Their property was left to the sympathetic friend who had helped them. Now, afterward, the survival of the town was largely due to the Stark family and their descendants who remained there, right? And they were the sole year-round residents for many years. And according to local legend, perhaps at least one of them, Annabelle Stark, still keeps a ghostly watch over the town, right? Various visitors have reported the presence of ghosts all around the mines and all throughout the town. And the stories range from people seeing apparitions of miners and townsfolk to the more common tales, such as, being brushed up against when there's no one there, unexplainable temperature fluctuations, and whispers coming from empty mine shafts. Shortly after Annabelle's death, the friend's grandchildren were said to have been playing in a room of the hotel when suddenly all the doors in the room slammed shut and the temperature dropped nearly 20 degrees. The terrified kids, they refused to play in the hotel ever again. It scared the daylights out of them. And another one of the grandchildren, she was a young woman in her 20s, and she decided to take on the hotel as a project, cleaning out the rooms, making minor repairs, washing down walls and floors, etc., And after cleaning up for the day, her and her friends would put away their tools and cleaning supplies, only of the floor when they returned the next day. Now, after this continued to happen over and over and over, they started placing the items in a padlocked closet, but still, they would be in the middle of the floor when they came back. So that's quite a bizarre occurrence. On another occasion, there was this skier, and the skier was said to have seen a very attractive woman in a white dress in the second-story window of the old hotel. And the owner was away on vacation, so the skier didn't know who it could have been, but the young woman was looking at something in a distance, and when the skier followed her gaze, she saw a group of snowmobilers, and they were riding through the street. So the skier flagged down the group, informing the snowmobilers that running the snowmobiles in St. Elmo was illegal, and so the group apologized and rode away. So when the skier looked back to the hotel, the woman nodded and then turned away to vanish. So the legend of Annabelle's ghost lives on with part-time residents of St. Elmo, believing that she continues to protect her property from vandals and trespassers. Now, St. Elmo today has numerous structures that have been preserved and are all privately owned. It is one of the best preserved ghost towns anywhere in Colorado and still has a few residents. The remaining structures include a general merchandise store, which operates from May through October, a church, a school building, many other business structures, and numerous cabins. Many of these buildings, they date back to the 1880s and 1890s. So if you want to have a chance at meeting Annabelle, St. Elmo Ghost Town will be the place to head out to. Next, we're going to travel on to Body, California. And Body is a ghost town in the Body Hills east of the Sierra Nevada mountain range of Mono County, California. It's about 70 miles southeast of Lake Tahoe and 12 miles southeast of Bridgeport, okay? Now, Body became a boom town in 1876 after the discovery of the profitable, piles of gold, right? And by 1879, it had a population of between 7,000 and 10,000 people. Now, the town went into decline in the subsequent decades and came to be described as a ghost town by 1915. The U.S. Department of Interior recognizes the designated Body Historic District as a Natural Historic Landmark. It's also registered as a California Historic Landmark, okay? The ghost town officially was established as Body State Historic Park in 1962, and it receives about 200,000 visitors yearly. Body State Historic Park is partly supported by the Body Foundation. Now, Body began as a mining camp, following the discovery of gold in 1859 by a group of prospectors, including W.S. Body. Now, the crazy thing is, Body died in a blizzard the following November while making a supply trip to Monoville near present-day Mono City, right? never getting to see the rise of the town that was named after him. So what do you know? In 1876, the Standard Company discovered a profitable deposit of gold-bearing ore, right? And that transformed Body from an isolated mining camp to literally a Wild West boomtown, right? Rich discoveries in the adjacent Body mine during 1878 attracted even more hopeful people. By 1879, that's when their population blew up to about 7,000 to 10,000, right? People. And it ended up having nearly 2,000 buildings. Now, Body boomed from late 1877 through mid to late 1880. And as a bustling gold mining center, Bodie had the amenities of, larger towns. They had a Wells Fargo bank. This just tells you just how old some of these, like Wells Fargo Bank, is still around today. Look at it there. It was back then in the Wild West time, right? It had 4 volunteer fire companies, a brass band, a railroad, miner and mechanics union, several daily newspapers, and a jail. And at its peak, it had 65 saloons lining Main Street, which was a mile long. Now, just think about this, folks, We've all had some of these younger days where, you go bar hopping. Just think about bar hopping a mile long, 65 saloons. That, to me, is just mind-blowing, right? Now, there were murders, there were shootouts, there were barroom brawls and stagecoach holdups. Now, this was all regular occurrences, okay? Now, with other remote mining towns, Body had a popular red light district on the north end of town. And it seems like all of these Wild West ghost towns, they all have their nice little red light districts, right? There is this unsubstantiated story of this lady by the name of Rosa May, and she was a prostitute who, in the style of Florence Nightingale, she came to aid of the town menfolk when a serious epidemic struck the town at the height of its boom, okay? She's credited with giving life-saving care to many. But after she died, get this is how they repaid her. After she died, she was buried outside the cemetery fence. So I guess the good deeds did not counteract the prostitution, I guess. Now, Body had a Chinatown also. The main street, which ran at a right angle, the main street of this Chinatown, it ran at a right angle to Body's main street. And at one point, it had several hundred Chinese residents and a temple. Opium dens were plentiful in this area. So, quite a community. Body also had a cemetery on the outskirts of town and a nearby mortuary. It's the only building in the town built of tongue-tied, red brick. There we go. 3 courses thick, right? And most likely, building it this thick was to keep the air temperature steady during the cold winters and hot summers. After all, it was a mortuary. Now, the cemetery includes a miners' union section and, the Bodie Boot Hill. It was located outside of the official cemetery, okay? Now, on Main Street stands the Miners' Union Hall, and that was a meeting place for labor unions. So this union stuff, that went back quite a long time. It also served as an entertainment center that hosted dances, concerts, plays, and school recitals. Okay, it now serves today as a museum. Now, the first signs of decline appeared in 1880, and it became obvious toward the end of the year, right? Promising mining booms in Butte, Montana, Tombstone, Arizona, and Utah lured men away from body. Okay. The get-rich-quick single miners who came to the town in the 1870s, they moved on to these other booms, and Body developed into a family-oriented community, okay? In 1882, residents built the Methodist Church, which still stands, and a Roman Catholic church, which burnt down in 1930. Now, despite the population decline, the mines were still flourishing, and in 1881, Body's ore production was recorded at a high of $3.1 million. Also in 1881, a narrow-gauge railroad was built called the Bodie Railway and Lumber Company, and it brought lumber, cordwood, and mine timbers to the mining district from Mono Mills, south of Mono Lake, right? Now, during the early 1890s, Body enjoyed a short revival from technological advancements in the mines that continued to support the town. In 1890, the recently invented cyanide process promised to recover gold and silver from discarded mill tailings, and also from low-grade ore bodies that had been passed over. So, yes, the cyanide was able to help them extract the bits and pieces, right? In 1892, the Standard Company built its own hydroelectric plant approximately 13 miles away at Dynamo Pond. The plant developed a maximum of 130 horsepower and 3,530 volts alternating current, right, to power the company's 20-stamp mill. This pioneering installation marked one of the country's first transmissions of electricity over a long distance. So, that is quite remarkable. In 1910, the population was recorded at 698 people, which were predominantly families who decided to stay in Bodie instead of moving on to other prosperous strikes, right? Now, it was first described as a ghost town in 1915, and in a time when auto travel was on the rise, many travelers reached Body via automobile. The San Francisco Chronicle published an article in 1919 to dispute the ghost town label. It was in 1920 Body's population was recorded by the U.S. Federal Census at a total of 120 people, and despite the decline and severe fire in the business district in 1932, Body had permanent residents through nearly half of the 20th century. A post office operated at Body from 1877 to 1942. And in the 1940s, the threat of vandalism faced the ghost town. The Kane family, who owned much of the land, hired caretakers to protect and maintain the town's structures. Martin Giannetti, he was one of the last people living in Body in 1943, and he was a caretaker. Now, I'm going to have to take a short break, and when we come back, we will talk about the haunt of this ghost town. You are listening to Ghost Talk Radio on WBHM-DB.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experienced Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Welcome back to Ghost Talk Radio. With me is your host, Shelly Robertson. And if you missed the first part of the show, no worries, friends. You can listen to the full show archive on Spreaker, Google Play, iTunes, iHeartRadio, and probably any other platform that you're subscribed to. You'll find us there. Okay, so prior to the break, I am talking about this huge ghost town called Bodie out in California, right? All right, so we're going to continue on with that because you will want to be interested in the actual hauntings now that you're learning all the history and how it came about and how it declined, okay? Today, Bodie is preserved in a state of arrested decay, right? Only a small part of the town survived, with about 110 structures still standing, and that's quite a lot of buildings still standing for a ghost town, right? Including one of the main operational gold mills is still there, okay? So visitors can walk the deserted streets of the town that was once bustling with activity. Interiors, get this, folks, I just think this would be a fascinating visit. Interiors remain as they were left and stocked with goods, right? Littered throughout the park, one can find small shards of china dishes, square nails that they used to build things with, and an occasional bottle. But let me tell you, if you visit and find something, removing any of those items is against the rules of the park, okay? And you might be doomed if you do remove something anyhow, okay? As you will learn as we go on. Now, there's many supernatural stories associated with the ghost town of Bodie, and perhaps the most prevalent is the tale of Bodie's curse, and this is what we're going to talk about. Myths surrounding the abandoned town state that anyone who removes an item from Bodie, even something as small as a rock or nail, will be plagued with bad luck until that item is returned to Bodie. And this claim is backed up by a book on display in Bodie's visitor center, which contains a large collection of letters addressed to Bodie's rangers. And each of these letters had an item taken from Bodie enclosed. And with the item, there was an explanation from people who sent them back and hoped that returning the item would relieve them from the string of bad luck they'd seemed to have had since their visit, right? So there's just a bunch of this. So one of Bottie's largest homes is also one of its most haunted, and that is Kane residence. And it's haunted by a tragic past and a woman scorned, okay? John was a wealthy man, and he chose to invest in the help of a Chinese woman who was to assist in maintaining the house and caring for his family, right? And rumors spread that this woman was having an affair with John, which led to her losing her job. So she was outcast by the townspeople. She sadly took her own life. And since her death, the ghost of this woman has been seen to occupy the property. Poltergeist activity has been reported. The woman's apparition has been seen staring out the windows, and adults who have stayed within the property have been physically attacked by an unseen presence. So, very haunted by the scorned woman, right? This is not the only haunted property remaining within Bottie. The Gregory house is reportedly haunted by the spirit of an older unknown female. She's been sighted all around the house, usually busy knitting. The old Mendocini house also has many paranormal stories linked to it. Years ago, this was a family home, and the disembodied laughter and sounds of children playing in the front yard is still commonly reported. The ranger who now lives in the house believes the spirits of these children remain and continue to play their cute little tricks. Like he said, sometimes his bed sheets get pulled off of him when he's trying to go to sleep. There'll be phantom smells of Italian cooking that also randomly appear within the home. Now, such a famous mining town wouldn't be complete without a haunted mine, folks, and the actual mines are closed off to the general public due to safety concerns. Yet, they were never the safest places even when in operation. Accidental deaths were common in this hazardous occupation, and some think that lost spirits may still be trapped within the abandoned mines. Rangers have reported hearing voices and screams. There is also said to be an entity of a white mule which died on the job after having its back broken within the mines. A ghost of a mule. Bottie's past contains many deaths, and so the town required a large cemetery within close vicinity. The Bottie Cemetery is not without its own ghost story, folks. It is told that the spirit of young Evelyn Myers haunts the area around her angel-shaped tombstone. She died under tragic circumstances at the age of 3 when she was victim to a freak accident where she was struck in the head with a pickaxe. Ooh, gruesome. Her ghost has been seen by many children within the cemetery, and the kids will tell their parents there was a little girl there that wanted to play with them. So, the Bottie Ghost Town has a lot of history and hauntings, and I certainly would like to visit that place. All right? Next, we're going to go on to this place called Goldfield, Arizona. All right? Goldfield Ghost Town brings the Wild West and some of its dead back to life, folks, making this one of Arizona's most haunted locations. The town was originally founded back in 1893 after being inundated by miners hoping to get a taste of the gold struck in nearby mountains. The town grew rapidly, gaining 1,500 residents its first year. The space was quick to erect buildings and businesses, including stores, a blacksmith shop, a butcher, a brewery, and 3 saloons. The town of Goldfield met its demise just as quickly as it was built up, though. After 5 short years, the gold dried up and people vacated, securing its ghost town status. Even though many left, not all were so quick to give up hope on Goldfield and striking it rich. The lure of a mysterious legend kept a select few nearby. The named Superstition Mountains are at the forefront of this prevailing myth that continues to entice treasure seekers to this day. Local legend states that many riches are hidden deep within the mountains in the lost Dutchman's gold mine, and it's a pity because the mountain is so cursed and no one has yet been able to discover this gold and stay alive. These few adventurers were not able to sustain the town of Goldfield, and it quickly became a shell, left to crumble and deteriorate in the desert's hot sun. That is until the 1980s, when the town was purchased out of a fascination of the mystery that surrounds the area. The town was rebuilt to become an authentic representation of what the community once would have been, right? And now Ghost Town attracts tourists from all over the world, as well as some visitors who have since departed, ghosties. There's plenty of documentation and investigations that point to Goldfield being a paranormal hub. A mysterious figure lurks within the shadows of the Goldfield Ghost Town's bordello. Ooh. It is unclear who the spirit would have been in life, yet it is commonly believed he was once a miner who lived in the town. Unexplainable knocks and bangs are heard in this building, and some unfortunate visitors have been scratched. This activity is attributed to a dark character who is usually seen wearing a cowboy hat. The bordello is also home to a far less sinister spirit. Plenty of staff have reported feeling the presence of Karen, who was a co-worker who passed away within, recent years. And she's believed to have returned to the place she loved so much. She loved working there. And then we have Goldfield Hotel, and the most haunted room in the hotel is room 109. Room 109 is the coldest, darkest, and spookiest room at the hotel. The very walls are said to appear to be bleeding. According to the former owner of the place, it was in 109 that a young prostitute supposedly got pregnant by mining tycoon George Wingfield, and he held her there against her will to prevent a scandal. She wound up having the baby, and supposedly she was chained to a radiator in this room, and her and the child ended up dying there. One previous owner claims to have seen the spirit of the woman who died. She claimed that every time she came in that room, her blood would run cold. And it was along this one wall where she claimed to have seen her, right? The ghost of the woman just had her arms raised up and was just crying, and it was just an apparition. And the owner said she could never stay in this room. And she had written a book and had details in the book about having psychics come in here. And the psychics identified this room as a very, very disturbed room, and a lot of them called it evil. The hotel's been closed to guests since the end of World War II, and attempts to renovate and reopen it have always failed. But what's most, astonishing about the Goldfield ghost town is the landscape. And it's the Superstition Mountains that surround it and are behind it. And those mountains are cloaked in mystery and at a center of many fables, making them notorious among the paranormal community, right? And they received their name from the Pima Indians who displayed fear of the area to European settlers. The Superstition Mountains carry many secrets, and most famous being the location of a supposed deposit of gold and riches in the lost Dutchman's gold mine, okay? So, a curse has kept this treasure safe since the days of Goldfield's mining boom. Many set out to find these riches, and many have returned empty-handed, or many ended up dead. Countless adventurers, people, they perished in the Arizona heat pursuing this chase, and their ghosts are said to now haunt the mountainside, right? So that is another place, not only the ghost town itself, but the whole area, if you would like to experience a ghost town. And now I'm going to briefly tell you what we've got going on at the jail coming up. Real quick here. We have one final public ghost hunt that will be listed on the calendar later this evening, and this will be the last public ghost hunt of the year. Tickets for this event will be very limited. Masks will be required as Ohio has a stringent mask order in place, and social distancing will be followed. For more information about this event, you can find it at 187pi.com or on our Facebook page. If you just search 187PI up, follow us. You can keep up to date on what's going on at the jail. We will be opening up a few more private investigation dates as well, so keep an eye on the Facebook page and our website because those dates sell out pretty quickly. And coming up, the first 2 full weekends in February, we have a celebrity ghost hunt and escape games featuring Santiago Cirillo, who has been named by the paranormal community as a paranormal magnet. He's been in many, many TV shows and films, including The Walking Dead and Rosalie. He will be filming a paranormal TV series called Smoke, with the first episode stated to be filmed at the jail. He will be looking for some local folks to fill some of the acting roles. So if you're interested, please make sure you grab tickets to one of the meet and greet sessions. That's where he will give a presentation on that, and you can get more information and get to talk to him personally about the filming project. I want to let you all know what's going here at our fabulous network, WBHM-DB. We have some fantastic shows by some amazing hosts and interesting guests. All shows that I'm going to talk about are at 8 p.m. Eastern. Sunday nights, we have Fate Mag Radio with host Kat Hobson. Monday nights, we have Paranormal Pride Show with host Denise Pridemore. Wednesday night, we have Paranormal Experience Show with host Kat Hobson. And we also have a couple of other ones, which is you want to check out the full show listing at WBHM-DB.com, where you can read about all the hosts and all the shows. I would like to take a brief moment to thank everyone for listening to tonight's live broadcast. And I also want to remind everyone, be kind and be positive. I want to wish everyone a great evening and a very happy weekend. Keep safe for night.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting. The best in paranormal talk radio.